welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, host of Put It Together. Welcome to the show. It is a special episode. Today is Friday, March 17, 2023. And by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing my green. I want to welcome everybody who's watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Please, if you don't mind, resharing this show on your page so that other folks can watch. If you're watching us on YouTube, scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new show on the air. Remember, we got horoscopes on Monday, so make sure you check those out on all of our platforms. We've got Kristen and Daniel on Wednesdays. On Friday nights, we've got Zodiacs with my friend Richard Wayne Kilgore II. Make sure you check that out tonight. And on Saturday mornings, we've got Put It Together live stream, which tomorrow we have a very special show. Two friends of mine, Danielle and Joe, who are also ostomates. They're called Double Bagging It, and they're going to come and talk about their journey with ostomies. And so make sure you check those out. If you missed any of our shows, everything's on the page that you're watching us, or go straight to our YouTube page where you can find not only the show you're watching now, but all of the shows on our series and on our network. We invite you to check this out, and please subscribe. Please, we need subscribers. We appreciate it. Today's show, before I start, I want to send out a very special happy birthday and hello to my sister Nancy. It is her birthday today, and she's a regular audience member on our shows, especially Kristen and Daniel. So make sure you send her a happy birthday and wish her well. I love you, and I will see you soon. On today's show, I have a return guest. He was on my podcast. For those of you that were fans of Put It Together podcast, he was on that show several years ago. And he's so kind to come back and talk a little bit more with us. We didn't finish the conversation, so he's back for more. Dan Lorenz. Dan's varied experience in franchising, investing, and the United States Army Special Forces has given him a broad set of tools invaluable to aspiring entrepreneurs. As a current franchise owner of multiple household name brands, Dan has learned to leverage his skill set to continue growing his product portfolio, and equally important, to guide aspiring entrepreneurs along the path to achieve their dreams. Mr. Lorenz transitioned from active duty military service into the finance industry, where he has worked as an investment banker in New York and Virginia, as well as a business strategy consultant in Washington, D.C. After graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, Dan studied resilience and post-traumatic stress disorder at the National Defense University. He completed a 3-year intensive study during which he learned Warren Buffett-style value investing via Bill Town, which coincided with him having earned his master's in business administration from the University of Maryland Robert H. Smith School of Business. Dan continues to leverage his education and real-world franchise experience to practice, grow, and implement value investing strategies into his private investments, and to leverage lean startup principles into his own franchises. Dan became a FranChoice consultant to pay forward the guidance and support he received as he transitioned from the military into entrepreneurship. His devotion to guiding veterans and aspiring entrepreneurs to realizing their entrepreneurial dream is what drives Dan each and every day. Dan currently splits time living between Michigan, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. with his wife, Kristen, their 2 children, JJ and Jordan, and their English Labrador, Cami. And without further, because he needs something else to do, so let's bring him on the air. Mr. Dan Lorenz. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having me on. God, that was like really uncomfortable listening to that. It sounds like so pompous.
I'm not gonna lie, it kind of is a little bit. I'm like, could you try and make us look bad a little more?
I need to cut that thing down.
The rest of the world watching right now is like, I am doing nothing with my life.
No,
I need to go to the Dan Lorenz School of Life to do that.
You know, I always tell people, Daniel, that I'm just too stupid to quit. Okay.
I'm gonna start using that. But you know, there's the first time we met, one of the things that attracted me to having you on the show and to talk to you was that there's like this hunger to keep going and keep learning, which is, I mean, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, I mean, look, I know we've kept in touch, you know, since we should tell everyone how we met and like that period of time. And if you want, I can start. It's just that, I was starting my business as a FranChoice, independent consultant, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But um, the pandemic had just launched, right? And I was just like, I think like all of us, we were just starved to talk to other humans, right?
Yeah.
And we came across each other on LinkedIn, and we had a Zoom call, and I think it was like a 15-minute call, and we ended up talking for like an hour and a half. I'll remember it, and we laughed a lot, and it was one of like my fondest memories during the pandemic was meeting you. And then we kept in touch, and we talked about your life and my life, and dude, I remember the conversation. And then I was on the podcast, and here we are. A few years later. I mean, it's amazing what technology can do, and if you just have a good soul, like who you can meet.
Thank you. And you know what? It's interesting that you mentioned because I thought I knew you longer.
Right.
I just had the because I in the for everybody watching in the pre, I was talking about when I was coming out of cancer, but I didn't meet you after cancer. I met you during the lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. Wow, I just felt like I knew you longer.
Yeah. Well, we hit it off. Like we joked a lot and stuff like that, and you could take my humor, and I could take yours, and look, it was great, and I'm so fortunate to have met you, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. You just made me feel good today. It's a good way to start the day. By the way, for everybody, I just got out of bed at 10 o'clock for the show, so that's just.
Wow.
But for the folks that missed the podcast, let's just give them a little bit because we read some of it in the bio. But Dan Lorenz, can you tell us how you put it together?
Man, I'm still putting it together. Right, it's a never-ending cycle, right? And I think that's what people have to realize, right? Is the most important lesson is that you're probably never going to have it totally put together, but as long as you keep putting it together, you're winning, right? And so, hey, long journey, like you said, I'm just a dumb army guy, right? Like I just went in and kept going and striving and trying to make the most of every opportunity. But really, what happened is, in 2012, I came off of a deployment that was really the pinnacle of my career at that time. I was a commander for a special forces unit, in Central America. So we were, in that region of the Pan American Highway, and dealing with all of that in El Salvador and, fellow countries, right? And it was just so gratifying on many ways. Like I loved my team. I loved who I was serving with. I loved our mission. Fast forward, 8 months through that deployment, I come home and, I have to get out and look for a job. Right. And so the job opportunity, for a guy that, had just graduated with his bachelor's at like 31 years old, and going into the workforce was kind of daunting. Right. I didn't really still know what I wanted to do in the civilian world. So I allowed society and my resume to basically speak for me. And I landed a job, working in a SCIF, which is like a secure room. If you're in the government, you kind of know these things. There's no, windows usually. There's no cell phones in there. You work at your computer. It's, thick walls and doors, and only people with granted access can go in and out. And so I was doing that, for, I think it was like 8 months in total. Okay. And it was just mind numbing. I was up at like 4 a.m. every morning because I had to be at work at 6, and I would leave at 2. And there was no autonomy. There was no purpose. A lot of the political landscape with the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq was starting to change. And, we still had friends over there, and what we were doing could have helped them. And we weren't allowed to do that. But I woke up one morning, Dan, at like 3 a.m. It was like 6 months into this job. And I sat up and I just started crying and bawling my eyes out. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she was sleeping next to me. We lived together, and she was just like shot up, and she was like, dude, what's wrong? And she probably thought I had like some like PTSD or, whatever it is that was affecting me. And it was such a pivotal moment in my life. And like that was my rock bottom, right? I was just bawling, and I was just like, I don't know how this happened. Like, I don't know how I've worked so hard to be, in the top 1% in the military, and become a Green Beret, and go on all these missions, and lead, amazing men and women overseas. And now I'm doing this, right? And I felt like the ultimate failure. I felt like the universe hadn't rewarded my hard work or anything like that. And it was so hard. It was like such a crushing blow to me. It's one thing to have a job. And if you have a job and you love your job, that's great, man. But when you think that's all you have, and you've put so much work in there, and you're not gratified, and you're not feeling that, right? Like, that's a low place to be. And that was the lowest I've ever been. And so I remember getting in the car after she kind of calmed me down, and kind of working through my options. And one of those options was, go to school, get an MBA, because I thought you had to have an MBA to make it in life at this point, right? Because I was like, well, I'm not making it, right? Like nothing's happening here. So on the way, I called my brother, right? My brother is like just the epitome of hard working entrepreneur, no education at all, like was a Marine in 88 to 92, and then just started getting out and opening his own businesses, right? Just figuring it out, right? And I remember calling him and talking to him that morning on the way to work, and he was like, "What's wrong, man?" And I was just like, "I don't know what I'm doing with my life." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "It's like, you're a Green Beret, and like you had a good job, stuff like." I'm like, "Dude, I am never been so miserable in my life." Like, all the bad things that you could say. And so he goes, "Well, what do you think I do?" And I was like, honestly, Daniel, like, I had no idea what he did. But here's what I did know. So he lived at the beach. He had 3 kids. He wore shorts every day. He had a nice home, fairly nice cars, never missed a sporting event, never missed an opportunity to be with his children, never missed an opportunity to go on vacation with his wife, never missed an opportunity to buy me a dinner when I visited him, or my mom, or anything like that. Now, he wasn't a mega millionaire or anything like that, but by all means, like, he had it going on. I didn't know what he was doing, right? And I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you do?" And he goes, "Well, I own businesses." And I said, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, I mean, that makes sense. I kind of already knew that, but like, how many businesses do you have?" And he's like, "And like, how'd you get started?" And he's like, "Dude, I own franchises." And I was like, "What is a franchise?" Like, I didn't even know, right? And he goes, "Well," he kind of explained it to me. And he goes, "Why don't we buy a franchise?" And I was like, "John, I don't know anything about business." I was like, "Well, that's why we buy a franchise. Like, they'll teach you, right?" And he goes, in the second, he's like, "I don't want to hear that either, because you've been in the military, you know how to run a business, all of those skills like rapport building and leadership and management, and you can translate that to other professions too, right? They give you that skill, right?" And I was like, "Okay, but dude, I don't have any money." And he's like, "Well, if you want it bad enough, you'll figure it out, Dan." I was like, "Okay." So I went to work that day, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. And so that night I called my bank, and I had another call with John, and he was like, "Look, it's going to be like, 25 for you, 25 for me. I'll split it with you. We'll buy a franchise. We'll be partners." That's what we're looking at. So then I called my bank, and I remember talking to the lady, and she's like, "What do you need a $25,000 loan for?" And I was like, "I'm starting a business." And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to start a business." She goes, "Well, why don't you just get a business loan?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have time to do that." She goes, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Look, I'm buying a franchise. Time is limited. I already know it's going to work because it worked for my brother, and we're going to be partners." She's like, "But the interest rate's like 11 or something, 12% on a personal loan." I was like, "I'm not worried about it. I'll pay it back because I know I'm going to be successful." Why am I going to be successful? Well, like we said in the beginning, I'm just too dumb to quit. But also because I have to be, right? And for her part, she tried to talk me out of it a little bit, and I just said no, like let's do it. So 72 hours later, I had the $25,000 in the bank account. Told my brother, we worked it through the franchisor, and boom, that was my first franchise. And at the same time, that's when I went and got my MBA. But while I did that, I also opened my second franchise.
Wow.
And that kind of put me on this trajectory to where I'm at now, which is all these learnings for the past decade, right? Being around the industry, and how do I transfer that information and that knowledge and that real world experience and that ownership experience and and help other people realize their own dream of maybe working for themselves or just having another business on the side that can insulate them from a layoff, right? We see thousands of jobs going away every single day, right? And if you think you're protected from that, you're wrong, right? I mean, it's like Warren Buffett says, if you rely on a sole source of income, you're one step away from poverty. And I don't want that to be me, and I don't want that to be anyone that I work with. But you got to want it more than anyone else, right?
Pretty interesting. There's a lot to unfold in all this. First of all, number one, I really liked that concept of not falling into it, but falling out of, because resume driven career, which I don't know if it's a real term, but I'm gonna put it
I
out.
just made it up, I think, on the fly.
And I think it's marvelous because we do, particularly after the lockdown, a lot of folks were in resume-driven careers. That because my resume says that I went to school here, I studied this, I need to do this to succeed. And then the lockdown came around, jobs were closed. I mean, right now, how many companies are laying off people? I have several friends who just got laid off. And all of a sudden, their resume is like, well, this is what I know how to do. What am I supposed to do now? And then
Right.
add to that life to work, which is something that I teach because I was just coming out of disability when I met you. And I took all of my life experiences and turned them into work experience and built my new resume. And I was like, okay, this is my new resume because this is everything I've learned while I was on disability and how to handle and how to be an advocate. And now those skills have gotten me jobs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, you're hitting it on the point, right? It's like, just like you said, we allow our resume to, and it's an important function. And look, I'm not sitting here saying that a franchise is going to save your life and make you a mega millionaire and stuff like that. But what I try to ask people is, what do you really want to do with your life, right? Because we have one job, and let's just say it's like data analytics, and we went to school for analytics, right? And we picked that occupation when we were 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, we still don't know anything at that point. Like, I still feel like I don't know anything, and I'm still constantly learning, right? And it's like, but at that point in our time, like, I remember when I was an 18 or 19-year-old, man, like, I don't no. And that's what we're forced to pick a profession, right? And now you move on from one job to another, and it's because of this experience and then this experience, which builds on that experience. And like, next thing you know, it's 20 years later, and you've been in a career that you despise, and all you look forward to is turning 55 or 57 so you can retire. And that is so sad to me, because all you're waiting to do is to get old.
Yeah.
Like, you're not living, man. Like, and like, I'm not trying to turn this into some like existential whatever, but I just want people to know that there is other ways, right? Like, I understand that there's a ways and a means, right? And it's like, yeah, we need jobs and we need employment, right? But if you're just going to go through that path, for 20 something years and be that miserable person, look forward to the water cooler and your 3 coffee breaks a day so you can get out of the office, and you're tired of the bureaucracy, whatever it is, and you don't do anything else to kind of end that, or to at least say, I can leave on my own terms now.
Exactly.
Then I feel like there's an opportunity that's missed there. And it's not just a financial opportunity, but it's a lifestyle opportunity. It's a soulful opportunity. to really become and achieve things that you've always wanted to do.
Yeah. That and then add to that, I wrote down, I have to be. I had never, probably have, but I had never like heard somebody say what I think when people ask me, why do you do all the things that you do, or why, like, all these entrepreneurship things that I do for my life. Like, I truly do believe, and I live the if you do what you love concept. Now that doesn't mean it's not hard work and I don't have to hustle, and you do live contract to contract, but I do what I love, and so I can wake up in the morning and go, hey, yes, I'm going to work today. Like, yeah, I get to do it. And I just got chills. I'm gonna have to put it on a t-shirt. I have to be. You know what I mean? It's like when people ask me, like, why do you do all 100 different things in your? Because when people, I read your bio and I'm like, that's like, okay, on another side, but my bio, when people read my bio and they're like, dude, how do you have time? And I'm like, because, and now I can tell them, because I have to be. Like, I have to be. So
Yeah.
it's
It's
so cool.
it's look, it's dude, we live in a great time right now. There's so much opportunity out there. Um, and there's so much knowledge. That's the most important thing. There's a lot of really smart people that are transforming people's lives. And I'm not saying every single guru you see on Instagram or Facebook is the real deal, but I've been fortunate to where I've met some and I've paid for their courses, and it's totally changed the trajectory of my life, right? On like marketing and advertising, right? Like, it's been fantastic. And so just there's a book called The Comfort Crisis, right? I don't know if you've read that.
Mm-mm.
And that's kind of what it talks about is like, it's most about like getting outside and really pushing your boundaries and your limits. But, we can do that in a lot of different ways, right? And a lot of times we do get comfortable with our desk job. And the sad part is that corporate America is not the corporate America that our parents or our grandparents grew up in, where you worked for a company for 33 years and then you collected your retirement and you were a family, and that's you were able to afford a good home in a good neighborhood and raise your children. It's not the way it is now, right? It's There's no loyalty on the corporate end. You have no retirement pension. It's whatever you can put in your 401k, and you put your money in your 401k, and that's not even up to you, right? You see how the stock market happens. So I think never before in our history has it been more important to have and to create multiple streams of revenue, right? And never before has it been as accessible to everyone else either. And I'm talking from a lending standpoint to a knowledge standpoint.
That's interesting. You're so cool. Um, I'm gonna have to find the book, The Cover Crushers. One of the first books, and I don't think I mentioned this enough, but I'm talking business. One of the first books that I read, um, like when I really wanted to start working for myself, was The Tipping Point, and
Oh, yeah.
and that completely changed my life and the way that I branded myself and the way that I put information. When people think like some of the things that I do are so spur of the moment, I'm like, no, everything is most of the things in my life are well calculated in order for them to work the way that I want them to work. And so, for everybody out there, The Tipping Point, especially for actors and entrepreneurs, Tipping Point's a great book to read. Okay, so we're halfway through the show. For everybody who's watching this, if you're watching this live or you're watching it on a replay, if you have any questions or comments that you want to be part of the conversation, please join us now. Even in the replay, make sure you ask questions, make comments, and I'll make sure I get them over to Dan once the show is over. But one of the other reasons that I wanted to have you on the show is because you are a franchise consultant and you do help people out. And I'll be putting up the website towards the end, so make sure you stick around for that. Um, let's talk franchise, because at one point when you and I had talked, again, this was the beginning of the lockdown, um, but it's something that Christian and I had talked about at some point. Like, hey, we're both getting older. Like, what do we want to do with our lives? Um, of course, I want people to come to you for for consultation, but are you able to share couple of pointers, like a couple of mistakes people make, and a couple of things that people can do to prepare before they come to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think human nature tells us in some sense, and especially with, we talked about how there's a proliferation of information out there and how there's a ton of people that are really good at things and they have great courses and stuff like that. But there's also probably a lot of frauds out there too, right? And so I think that the number one thing is that, have enough faith in yourself and confidence in yourself to have a conversation with someone that is offering a service or whatnot, and be able to make a decision on whether you want to work with that person or not. Okay. With franchising, there's several ways to get into it. But I would tell you that the number one way to mitigate as much risk is to work with a professional that can help guide you toward your ideal franchise. Now, look, I'm an independent consultant, which means that I do not work for a single franchise. Okay. I work as an independent consultant for FranChoice, like you said, but Guerrilla Franchising is my own entity, right? That means that I have the ability to operate my program or the way that I want to operate with complete autonomy. Okay. And what I realized is that, look, what are my strengths? I mean, as a Green Beret, like a lot of our mission was teaching, right? Teaching foreign soldiers, how to operate within a certain parameters of tactics, right? And I've done that for over 22 years. And the one thing that I wanted to do when I became a franchise consultant is teach people not only the reward, but the risk that is associated with business ownership and franchise ownership. And in a sense, I wanted to do that in a way that I, a veteran, or other veterans, what we do in the military is we dumb it all down, right, to like a 5th grade level. And I wanted to provide that knowledge for people and walk them through a guided plan and say, hey, here's what we're going to cover in week 1. Here's what we cover in week 2. Here's what we cover in week 3. Yes, I'm going to find concepts for you. Yes, I'm like a real estate agent in the sense that I get paid if you buy a franchise. Okay. But if you don't buy a franchise, then I don't ever get paid, and I don't care, right? Because I have other people in the pipeline that are willing to buy. So I don't need to push you. I don't need to press you for it. But what I do demand is that you're serious about the motion that you're setting, right? You're serious about, hey, I want to learn about franchising. And that's one thing that happens is when people contact me or they go through my funnel or they go to my website or whatnot, and they click the consultation form and they get on the phone with me, that 15-minute consultation that I have. And I tell them, I just say, look, if you want to learn about franchises and you're willing to have some calls and conversations and you're willing to work with me and learn from me, and in the end, if you don't buy a franchise, that's okay, right? But if you're just going to call me and say, hey, what are the best franchises that you have? Well, I'm not going to work with you because you're not serious about it. And 2, you can just go Google the Entrepreneur 500. The only caution that I have there is that's a marketing list, right? You can go online and do that. And I'm not saying that the concepts on there are bad or anything, but they're not like holistic for you, right? And so the one thing that separates what I do as opposed to you Googling the end of the internet to find the right franchise concept is I'm selecting concepts that not only fit your lifestyle desires, right? Like if you want to go to your daughter's dance class and your kids' sports events, and you want to be able to take them to school every day and pick them up and go on vacation, that lifestyle aspect. If that's what you want, then the benefit to having me is I'm going to find concepts that I already know can do that. And then I'm going to help you prove that out, right? If you're just looking for a side hustle where you spend 5 hours a week on it and you're willing to spend more money, like $1 million or whatnot, I'm going to find those concepts for you, right? So the point is that I'm helping find concepts that actually fit into each candidate that I work with, like each one of your desires. If you need to make a certain amount of money, if you need to have a certain lifestyle, if you don't want to be tied to a retail location, right? Like I really don't ever do fast food, by the way. So just let everyone know I don't do fast food. Right. So if those are the things, then I take those into account, and then I go into the inventory and I look at, okay, this is a solid concept. This is a solid concept. Not so much. I'll ignore that one. This is a solid concept. Oh, now they're available where you live and where you want to open your business. Okay, now How much does it cost for that concept? I take into your financial consideration. Do I need to help you find a loan? Do I need to introduce you to some funding partners in the franchise industry to get you the right SBA loan, or to use a 401k rollover, or all these other funding mechanisms, so that you can begin to create that legacy and that wealth, right? So before I get too long-winded, it's look, I take a personal approach with everyone that I work with. I'm a one-man shop. I don't have an assistant. I don't have a junior associate or anything like that. It's Dan Lorenz. When you call Dan Lorenz and you go on Guerrilla Franchising, I'm the one that's going to call you, right? You're going to hear this voice on the other side of the phone, for better or worse, and it's going to be me, right? And I'm going to take your goals and your desires to heart, because I believe in having that like human to human connection and helping people. I've got enough sins from my rack, man. I don't need like to put you in a bad business model or something that you can't afford or can't achieve, for a quick buck. That's not my style, man. I'm here for the long haul.
There's something that you said that, because I work, I'm all about the energy of things. There's one thing that you said that really got my attention, and it's the balance of things. It's like, hey, there's rewards and there's risks, and that's something that I've been approached several times through my lifetime of people's like, hey, I've got this business for you, and it's gonna be awesome. Everything's gonna be great. We're gonna make a lot, but they never talk to you about the risks and 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 in life, everything is a balance. Everything is good and bad, light and dark. So I appreciate that part, um, because not everything is going to be great all the time. Segueing into that, what are some lessons that you, if you don't mind sharing, some lessons that you learned that you're like, ugh, I should have had a V8 moment.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, in the end, like if I could ingrain one like sentence in everyone's mind, it would be, is the reward and opportunity, greater than the threat of failure? Okay. And if you can keep that and allow that to ground you, okay, and use that as the mechanism for you to assess different concepts that I bring to you and work to you, then I would say that's really important. As far as like where people might get into pitfalls, a lot of people to me and they say, hey man, I'm really passionate about this. I'm really passionate about that. And I would say like that's where I got in trouble with my second franchise, right? Is I was really passionate about the fitness industry. And I was like, man, I had no doubt I can do this, etc. And I went and I started my fitness concept. And the problem with that was that I should have never started that concept. I should have kept with the service-based concept that I already had, or did a different one. And that's the lesson I learned. And the reason is because that concept was so expensive to start relative to the reward in the short period of time, right? And so I often tell people, look, if we can find the right business for you that fits in your passion, like if you love pickleball, and if there's a pickleball franchise out there and it makes sense financially, from a lifestyle standpoint, from a passion standpoint, then I'm going to find it for you, and we'll evaluate it and we'll see if it works, right? But don't hang everything else on it, right? Because there's other ways to achieve your passions, right? And sometimes a really solid system with marketing and lead generation and HR and systems that are already in place can generate enough cash flow for you so that you can pursue your passions on your own time, so that you're not stuck at work all day and dealing with the ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship and those peaks and valleys that always come with owning a business, right? And you're not allowing that to disrupt your passion. Because what is a passion to us? A passion is like a way for us to have a reprieve from life. It's a way for us to like download and decompress. Like my passion is fitness, one of them, right? And it's like when I started that fitness concept, the last thing I wanted to do after a bad business day in the fitness industry is go back to the fitness.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that,
Yeah.
because as you're talking, I'm like, just for me, just because I love eating tacos, does not mean that I would be a good taco restaurant owner.
Right.
It's a difference, and I think a lot of times, and we've all, anybody watching, we've all had those friends that were great bodybuilders. And you're like, oh my God, you're so awesome. And they're like, I'm going to open a gym. But they know nothing about business. They know nothing about starting the business. And it sucks because they're catering it to them, not to them, not to their customers, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And in the end, like, you're going to have bad days and you're going to have good days. And I just try to tell people to remember, like, your passion is supposed to alleviate those.
Right.
So if you combine them, man, it becomes difficult, right? Like for you, it's like, well, you've got a passion for tacos. Like, who doesn't, right? Like, is there something wrong with you? But like, I want to be able to make enough money where I can go to Mexico for a weekend and like Mexico City and like have all the best street tacos that I can, or something like that. Like that's the way that we can leverage business ownership to the things that we have passion for, right?
Gotcha.
It doesn't have to be the night, like, because of the business, right? The business, it can be indirectly. I mean, is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha. So for the people that are watching the show and that are like, oh, cool, like this guy knows what he's talking about. Let me start Googling and emailing him before they send you that email, before they fill out the information on your site. What are things that they should have either physically ready or mentally ready?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I appreciate that. Look, when you talk to me, nothing happens unless you say you want it to happen. So from a mental standpoint, I would say, look, we're going to do some work. Like at the end of the conversation, I'm going to ask you, do you want to work with me? Right. And all I want from you is, are you willing to learn? No, it doesn't mean if you work with me, you're going to have to buy a franchise. Doesn't mean you have to do any of that, but you're going to have to get on some calls and you're going to have to give it an honest shot, right? You got to give yourself an honest opportunity. Okay. If you just want to hear what concepts I'm going to give you and then you're going to quit the process after that, then do me a favor and don't reach out to me. Look, I present 3 concepts usually to everyone as we get through the path, right? And like I said, those 3 concepts are based off the things that you tell me through our calls together, and that really align with the things that you said were important. Now, if you don't like the way that business sounds and you're just going to judge that book by its cover, well, that's not going to work, right? Because some of these businesses I present to you, you're not going to be like, you probably wouldn't have found them on the online. Like, you don't know about them. I know about them because I'm in the industry. I know which ones work, right? And I know why they're good businesses. So the second part of that is I would ask you just to have an open mind and like the guts to actually see something through for 6 or 8 weeks. In the end, I always tell people on that initial call, I say, look, I promise you. Well, number one, I don't sell anything ever. Okay. I don't sell franchises. I don't sell my course. I don't sell any of it. You earn it by having calls with me. Right. And that's exactly what we do. We build a relationship. But in the end, I say, look, my whole goal is to give you the tools that you need to make a decision, that you need in order to make a good decision for you and your family. And at the end of the 6 weeks or 8 weeks or however long it takes us, depending on the season, right? All you need to do is make a decision. And that decision is yes or it's no. My job is not to pressure you. My job is not to coerce you. My job is not to do anything other than support you. And I promise you, and I promise every candidate that I work with, that if you tell me you're not going to end up buying that franchise, I'm going to support you. And if you tell me that you are, I'm going to support you.
This is because now that I'm in the spiritual life coaching business, which is something new since the last time we talked.
But you told me about it.
This is business coaching for everybody out there. I mean, there's life coaching, there's spiritual coaching, like what I do, but this is a whole new, like, this is business coaching because you sound like what I sound when I work with clients for the first time. I'm like, look, there's going to be things that I'm going to tell you that you may not like. And there's going to be things that go against everything that you've thought about life forever. But if you trust the process and if you stick with it, I promise that there will be an outcome. Will it be the outcome that you think right now? Probably not. but there will be an outcome, and it will rise you above where you are now. Does that make sense? Because that's what it sounds like. Right now, I'm kind of like, let's get on a call, Dan. Let's do this, which is ultimately the goal, right? You want to get people not false hope, but make them realize that they have more potential than they think they do. Does that make sense?
100%, right? And it just comes from information, right? And a lot of the information that I share with my candidates that work with me and go through this process is not me just telling them what, A plus B equals, right? Like, it's giving them the tools so they can figure this out on their own, and then come back to me on our weekly calls and say, am I doing this right? Right? Yeah, but maybe we should tweak it a little bit, right? So just like you said, Daniel, right, man, um it's just a way to help, right? It's a way for them to kind of figure this out, because the last thing you want to do is, continue working in your job and be like, oh no, everything's going great. And then you're one of the 120,000 people that lost their jobs in January. And now you're like, oh man, I had a great opportunity to kind of insulate myself from the impact of this last year, but I couldn't get over some of the concepts that Dan presented to me, and I didn't want to learn or apply myself.
Have you had people who came to you, went off, and then they were like, okay, I'm coming back. Like, I want to do this.
That's the most awesome thing. Like, I love that, to be quite honest, because like I said, I don't pressure anyone. You just got to go through my system and work with me, right? And give yourself an honest shot, right? And a lot of times when people quit like halfway through, or they quit right after I present the concepts, which is just a big waste of time. And I don't understand that. But a lot of it's people get scared, right, about what they might find out. But what they might find out, they're scared about it because they know that it's going to take effort. It's going to cost some money, but that it can really work. And I don't know if some of those people, I think they realize at that point that they don't have what it takes to put in that effort. So they just quit. Right. And some of them do come back. I'm working with several people now that, last year I worked with them very briefly at some point, and now they come back and they've been incredible throughout the process, because look, you got to be ready. Right. I mean, I can't force you to be ready. I'm not in that game. I can only work with the willing, to be quite honest. Right. That's why I don't get mad about it. Like, I would hope that you would just be honest with me. And, if we have a man-to-man conversation, right. And like, we look each other in the eye and I'm like, hey, this is the only requirements that I have of you. Like, I put you on my calendar once a week, etc. Like, please make these calls because I could put someone else on that spot. Right. Just a mutual respect. Right. And so, that's it. But when they do come back, Daniel, it's so rewarding because they did it on their own, right? It wasn't an clever email that I wrote or my marketing or anything like that. It was like, hey, I may have like I just wasn't ready last year. And I'm like, that's totally cool, man. Like, that's totally cool, right? Like, are you ready now? Yes. And they turn out to be awesome.
It's what I usually tell my clients when they come to me and they start seeing the change. For those of you out there, spiritual life coaching is about acknowledging and removing barriers and blockages in your life so that you can move forward. And sometimes we're so used to those blockages and barriers, we've grown accustomed to having barriers in our life for whatever reason. Latino, gay, you're a woman, you're a minority, whatever the case may be. And then to take down those barriers, it's scary because we're not sure what's on the other side. And although we know instinctively that it's better, we're afraid of making that transition. And it's interesting because I just had a text this morning, and somebody was going through some changes, and I'm like, it's okay to be afraid. It's normal for you to be frustrated and scared and sad and upset, and you want to cry and raise the fist. I would be surprised if going through all these life changes, you weren't ready to break down and cry. But do it anyway. Like, do it anyway. Have your 5 minutes of breakdown and cry and stress and fear, and I'll walk you through it, and I'll sit here with you and text till you're done. But then get your ass up and do it anyway. Like isn't that the reason? Isn't that the reason we go off to school, or we get married, or we get divorced, or whatever the case may be. Like, yes, for everybody out there watching, I'm gonna look at the camera. Give yourself permission to completely freak out, but then do it anyway, and just realize that what's on the other side of that wall is going to be so much better than where you are now. And that's the fear. That's the I believe.
You just got to put it together, right?
Hey, there you go. Ha ha. Hey, sir, that's my tagline. Dare you?
Just helping, right? I just want
I'm
to be
just
your
going to tell
sidekick.
everybody out there, Dan's been trying to take my job since we came on this morning. Just going to put that there. Been bossing me around since yesterday. Actually, no, I'm not going to lie. I was bossing him around yesterday. So,
You were pretty bossy.
So we're at the part of the show now where I ask my guests to share some words of wisdom with the audience. Dan Lorenz, what words of wisdom do you have to share?
Oh, gosh. I think the number one thing that I've carried with me probably for the past 25 years when I first read it, it was when I was going through my special forces training, and there was an office, and I just started, and I signed in and stuff like that. And it's very intimidating because there's these like big burly Green Beret men, and they're going to be your instructors, right? And you're like, man, like my life is in their hands, right? Like they could fail me. I mean, that's your perception, right? But only you can fail yourself, right? In a way, right? But I remember there was this printout piece of paper. I'll never forget it. And it was like right there when you walk in. So it's like you had no choice but to look at it. And the quote was that the chief cause of unhappiness and failure is trading what you want most for what you want at the moment. And I ingrained that into my brain. I wrote it on an index card and I kept it in my pocket, because a lot of stuff we do is on our own, right? And I would pull that out once in a while. And obviously I memorized it pretty quickly. And I've had that quote in my head every single time something got hard or difficult. And I had to kind of take a deep breath, do a little pause for a second and say, if I fail, is it because it's uncomfortable right now? Right? Or if I quit, is it because it's uncomfortable right now? And I've always had to re-say that quote: the chief cause of unhappiness and failure is trading what you want most. You got to remember, we got to think long-term, okay? For what we want at the moment, not this short-term comfort, short-term gain, okay? And so anyone out there that has a job that they like or whatnot, but they know it's not what they want most, right? Like, figure out what it is that you want most in your life. Write that stuff down. I'm sure this is probably what you do, with your new business, which we should really talk about, right? Is like how you're helping people get through those barriers. So write that stuff down and then reassess and say, is this position that I'm in, is this company that I'm with, is this lifestyle that I'm living going to help me get to what I want most? Right.
There's before I forget, here is Dan's page. Make sure you go check it out. GuerrillaFranchising.com. Go check it out. It's got all the information. It's got scroll all the way down. There's a lot of information. Take your time to read it. And then the questionnaire is at the very bottom, correct, of that page.
It's like 4 questions, not even hard, right? But if you go on there, there's a video sales letter on there, so you can kind of hear about my story or whatnot. And then there's a lot of testimonial videos. So if you think I'm still a snake oil salesman, then you can watch the testimonial videos from some of the people that I've helped. I've obviously helped a lot more since then. And then like book a 15-minute call. I mean, what do you have to lose for 15 minutes, right? I might actually make you laugh.
Might.
No guarantees. No guarantees, man.
And here is his LinkedIn. You can also go check him out at LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The Dan Lorenz, because there's another Dan Lorenz out there. I forget what he does, but there's another. I think he was a sports player. I think he was a football player. There's another Dan Lorenz out there. Yeah. So not to be confused with this Dan Lorenz. There's another Dan Lorenz. So
hopefully he didn't play for the Cowboys.
The Dan Lorenz. So make sure you check him out. Remember that all these links will be available to you. So go check those out. Still about 10 minutes, but
yeah, let's talk. So tell me about what's new with you as far as when we talked, did you do a tarot card reading for me when we talked
I
a couple
did.
like a
I
month
did.
ago? Yes.
We'll have to do another one after the show and then see where you are
Okay.
now.
You don't want to do
But
it right now? Why? Because it could be scary.
why do people scary? Folks, my readings are not scary. Um, how dare you, sir? No, since we talked, I think I was talking about spiritual coaching and
Mhm.
uh, so between because we met there almost at the beginning of the lockdown. Um, Between that and now, I got my life coaching certificate. Um, yeah, Grace Landers out of Rainbow Soul Circle is my coach, and we did a year and a half of coaching to get me where I wanted to be. And because for people who watch the show, and if you guys have been watching the show, I've been talking about this on all of our three shows. I didn't like the programs that were out there. Not that I didn't like them, I just didn't want to do that. For anybody who knows me knows that if it's a dirt road, I'm gonna pave it. Like I want my own. I want the street named after me. I don't want to drive on somebody else's street. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to remember that one. Uh, so I created my own cards.
Oh, wow, those look great, man.
So my program is called the alignment, and the alignment is about aligning mind, body, and spirit. Not only your logical side, but your energy side. So it's seven. The way that what I studied and the way that I put it together, there's seven levels to our personality that we need to work with and align, and there are seven chakras that we need to align. So many of you who watch Zodiacs or watch the Card Devo probably got to see my prototype deck, which because I couldn't find what I wanted out there. I made my own deck. I just bought some cards on Amazon and some tape, and I just did my own little.
Oh,
Yeah, I created my own deck. I was like this, and it it took me 6 years to get to where I wanted. And then finally, a week ago, I received my first deck. So it's finally printed out.
dude, those look amazing.
And so it's the alignment. And then, but again, because it's me, um, you have this is the first level, which is your foundation or your root chakra. And this is the card that says patience,
Yep.
but it's also in Spanish.
Oh, I love that.
So not only can you do your alignment, but you can learn another language while you're doing it. So I'm teaching you 70 different words in English and Spanish, basically.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and it's I think the reason that I'm connecting with you so much right now is because this does what you're doing is like, hey, let me walk you through the process. There's going to be some barriers or some blockages, but I'm going to walk with you. You need to break it down yourself, but I will walk you through it. I
Mhm.
will stand there and watch you do it. And sometimes folks are a little resistant. I've had a couple of graduates, and there were a couple of points in the middle of this. It's an 8 session program. People can do one session, but most people do the 8 sessions. Somewhere in 3 or 4, they're like, "Oh, this is too much. Like I'm learning too much about me." And I'm like, "That's the point. That's the point."
Ah,
And then they get to the end, and we've aligned their energy. And hopefully, folks that uh, do my trainings, get the cards, they can then do them for themselves. And now I'm working on the book to train people to be the alignment coaches. I want I want people. I want this to be a movement, and like this is my franchise. This is
I
my thing.
love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So
so then, like, so if someone's interested in this, right? This is me trying to take over your show again.
I
Um,
could see that. Yeah.
how do you, how do they get started? Like, do they buy your cards online or do they sign up with you first? Like, how does this work?
So sorry, that's my pills. It's time for my pills. Um, So for right now, my okay, long story short, I even before I even had the car. Okay, talk about jumping in without a parachute, like totally. I hope they don't see this, but they don't. But I submitted an abstract to a conference in May in New Orleans. For everybody out there, it's the National Latinx Conference on HIV, HPV, and Hep C. Very specific, and I pitched it as a burnout prevention workshop because I don't know if anybody knew this, and maybe this will help you in your job, in your career. But burnout is normally caused by us bumping into the same walls over and over. We get burned out because we're fighting the same thing on a daily basis. I don't like my job. I don't like my boss. I don't like where my career is going. Hitting that day in, day out is what causes the burnout. So we need to break down that barrier. Why don't you like your boss? Why don't you like your job? And why do you keep doing it, basically? Uh, so I'm going to go in May and teach this workshop um, to case managers, social workers, doctors, nurses, advocates on how to identify burnout in their lives so that they then can teach patients and clients to identify their own burnout. Okay, so that's going to be the actual launch in May. But right now, if you are interested, if you tried life coaching and it wasn't for you, and you keep going to card readers, energy workers, and it's not getting you the results you want, then I'm right there in the middle. I'm a spiritual life coach. So I bring you both logic and spirituality into one. And you can sign up and do one workshop, which is the full alignment, or sign up for and buy the 8 session program, and then we meet up. We're especially like a regular life coaching session, or we meet up every 2 weeks. But the cards play a big part. So you say, "Let's. How do we do this?" Okay, so
And when we meet up, right? Is it like over Zoom and stuff like
yeah,
that? So you can do everyone.
everything's over Zoom. We
How much
record the
is the course?
session.
How much
Pardon?
is it? How much is the course?
So for one session is 175. If you buy the full 8 session package, it's $1,200 for the whole package.
Okay.
And we can do that. We can arrange that right now, payments or whole or whatever. But if you buy the whole 8 week session, you get a deck of cards for yourself. So that's the benefit between buying one session, right? But I'll give you a quick just jump. We're going to do your root chakra or your foundation. So the cards are
So root chakra is my foundation. That's what you're
yes,
saying.
so
That's what it is? Okay, got it. Okay, got it.
So, and you get a little sample card that tells you
Okay.
where everything breaks up. So, the way the cards are broken down, it's 70 cards divided in 7 sections. Each section has 10 cards to it, and each card has a word on it that is identified with that level or that chakra. And the way we work with the clients is always recorded. Everything's on camera so people know that I'm not pre-selecting cards for you. So I would say, Dan, can you tell me a number from 1 to 9?
7.
7. All right. So we shuffle the cards a little bit, and of course, because Dan can't pull them, I will pull them for him. So I would say that right now, interesting enough.
Uh-oh.
It's funny because we're talking about this right now. So interesting enough, your foundation right now, or root chakra, or the thing that we need to pay attention to right now, is career choices.
What?
Which is really interesting. So I would say to you that
How do
right
we say it in
now,
Spanish? How do we say it in Spanish?
carrera.
Okay.
So
Carrera.
la base o la raíz is la carrera. So I would say that right now, some of focus on some of the career changes that are happening in your life. And no, for those of you folks listening, I don't think he's leaving his job. I'm just saying that there are some opportunities that are coming up career wise that are going to affect your outcome. And that we're a little, because it's coming out as your foundation and it's coming out as the barrier, I would say that some of the opportunities that are coming up for you, we're a little hesitant into if we want to choose that. So the annex, let's call it the annex. I feel like this is your career and you're building the annex. Do I want to go in that direction? And then, of course, you don't stop there. You have to go and pull out. This is your balance or your sacral chakra. Then we would say, oh, the reason that I'm concerned about this annex is it going to balance out the joy that I have in my life? So is the career, this new career path that I want to go on, or this new dirt road that I want to pave, is it going to bring me the joy in the career that I want? Is it going to allow me to still find the joy, or is it going to be more of a headache? And if it's going to be more headache, then why do it, right? And so then number 3 would be your sacral chakra. I'm sorry, your solar plex, which is right here. This is your power point. For everybody out there, our power lies in our belly. And you're like, how is that possible? It's because think about when you're on a roller coaster. Where do you feel the energy? Right here on your belly.
Yeah.
When you have to make big decisions in your life, when you meet the person that you love or the person you don't like, you feel it in your belly. It's your intuition. It's your guide. It's what tells you if something is good or not. So I guess you are getting a card reading after all, aren't you? Man, see how bossy he is, people? He just gets what he wants. He thinks he can just come on my show and be all like, oh, look at me, I'm fabulous. Number 3, the reason that probably there's a little hesitation of if it's going to affect your joy or not is because your power is telling you, am I really committed to this new thing? Do I really want to do it? Or like we were talking earlier, is it resume? Is my resume telling me that I should do it? And now it's more of an ego thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, these are all like right on, spot on.
Right. So number 4, it's like this is basically what we do in my sessions. Number 4, this is your intake or your heart chakra. All the information for everybody out there watching, all your information that comes from the world comes into our heart first. And then from our heart, we decide where it goes. If it's going to be our root, if it's going to go up to affect our dreams and goals. But our intake, we know when people tell you, I was like, oh, Dan, you're taking that to heart. Well, yeah, because everything comes here first. So in your heart are you really listening? Like, are you listening to the information that is coming to you from the world or from other people, from yourself? Like, is your heart telling you, Dan, are you listening to this? Are you really ready to commit, affect your joy, and go in this career path that you're looking at? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Are we good so far?
Yes, this is incredible. You're right on point, dude. Like, this is wild.
This is why they come to me. Hello, sir. Okay, so number 5 is your throat chakra. Your throat chakra. And by the way, for everybody who's watching this live or on replay, thank you for sticking around. We're going over time today. Number 5 is your voice chakra, or it's your voice or your throat. And this is really more about, are you speaking your truth to you? Are you being honest with yourself? Because you know this. And you said this kind of about people that come to you. If you're not being honest with yourself, are you really ready for this? You're not going to be ready for what I have to say to you because you're not being honest with me. So in your is this about healing? Are the things that you're telling yourself, are they really about healing you, or are you just saying the words because they sound good, or it's like, okay, that's what I should be doing, or that's what a man would say, like I'm tough. So are you healing with your voice? And this is a lot about linguistics. You know about linguistics. For those of you out there, linguistics is the way we say things, or the reason we say things, and what their purpose is. And sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. So are you healing from the words that you say to yourself? Are you listening? Are you really committed to make these changes? Is it to bring you the joy that you want in the career path that you're looking at? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Are we good so far?
Oh my God, this is amazing. I love it. Thank you so much. I love this.
Number six.
Yeah.
Number six is, people know this as the third eye, um, but it's the brow chakra, and this is your vision. This is your dreams, your goals, your manifestation, what you want in life, and it's about your inner light. Is it really turning on your inner light, or is it dimming it? Because sometimes we think that we need to pursue the dreams that we had when we were 20. I'm 52 now. And those 20-year-old dreams, it's like jeans from high school. They probably are not going to fit, but we can adjust them. We can change them. We can return them and get a new pair. So is your vision turning on that light inside of you to help you heal? Listen to what the world is telling you so that you can commit to your joy and make the career changes that you want. Does that make sense? Are we good?
Oh man.
All right. And we're going to put all this together in just a second. So number seven,
Because there's seven chakras, right?
seven chakras and seven levels.
Okay.
So the seventh level is your connection to the world, to God, to the universe, to life, to you. It's different than your power in that this is the connection. This is your crown chakra. This is where you realize that you are the most divine version of yourself. You are perfect in your imperfection. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like whatever your reality is right now, that's the most perfect version of you right now. And if you can't accept that, then everything else is just not going to fall into place. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number seven is mental health. So, am I aware of where my mental health is right now? Is this causing me stress? You talked about PTSD. I have health related PTSD. Um, am I being really honest about where my mind is right now, where my mental health is right now? So the way that this would get put together at the end. So basically, I'm giving you an alignment, a mini alignment without all the writing down, and because this would be an hour, and because Dan is so controlling, he's making me do this in 10 minutes.
I thought it's because we were friends. Sorry.
You know, these military men, they're so demanding. Um, so what this tells me, and I'm going to put it to you both ways, um, is the career choices that I'm making bringing me joy? Committing, am I really committing to myself by listening to what the world's telling me, using words to heal me so that I can turn on my inner light and have the mental health that I'm looking for? Or the reverse of that is my mental health affecting my inner light, which is affecting my healing because I'm not listening to the messages, committing to myself so I can find the joy in my career path?
That's amazing.
Does that make sense?
Dude, I mean, like everything that you hit on, man, I'm on it. Like everything that you hit on is stuff that's like, yes, it's real. It's happening.
So if you came to me, you said, "Hey, I want to sign up for your alignment workshop. It's an hour and a half. We get on Zoom, we record it. You take notes, I take notes. You get mailed everything, but emailed everything. But we walk through this, but we pause on each one and go, okay, is that making sense? Why? How? Like, what are you? And then there's homework. There's always homework. I always give homework. Even if you come for one session, I will follow up with you in 2 weeks and make sure that you did your homework. Otherwise, it's like you. If you're not going to make the calls, if you're not going to do the work, then what's the point? So with me, if you're not going to do the homework, then you basically paid me just to give you medication, and you're not going to take it, basically.
Right, right.
And then when folks sign up for the 8 sessions, we'll come back and do each chakra at a time. And then in those, we pull out 4 more cards plus the career. So you get 4 more cards for that level. and we break those down. It's like, why? So it's a lot of logic and digging, but there's a lot of like letting the cards tell you what's going on. So you have to trust the universe to guide you. So I've had a couple of skeptics who were like, how's that going to work? But just like with you right now, I'm like, does this make sense? And they're like, yes. So the next thing is, because I just got them, is I need somebody to, I need to sit with somebody and go, okay, you pull your cards and see how that works. So, but yeah, so these will be, I'm about to set up the website.
Okay.
I just got connected. Talk about opportunities. LinkedIn. Somebody on LinkedIn approached me and said, hey, we do free websites for people. We saw that you have this business. Would you like us to create something for you? And then if you like it and you want to add to it or not, whatever. So I took them up. I'm like, yeah, I need a website for my coaching. Can you do that? And so we'll have it. So as soon as that's up, I will start selling the cards and you can buy your own deck. But I feel like without the training, there's really no point to it.
I like the course. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can, folks out there, not that I don't like to promote it when somebody else's time, but would you, if you'd like a spiritual life coaching alignment with Daniel G. Garza, just message me and we'll switch up. So that's, and actually somebody was asking me for a video of a quick session.
Oh.
So I'm going to send them this video to say, hey, here's a quick session that I just did.
You're welcome.
Oh, you would. Oh, look, we have somebody joining in and asking a question.
Yes.
I want to learn about franchises. I'm starting my franchise for hardworking middle families. Need help to put it together. Oh, and I know Checo. Checo has a food truck. Excellent food truck, by the way, here in California.
What kind of food?
He sells tacos, but he has this amazing hamburger that Kristen loves. I haven't tried it. I've only tried his tacos. But Checo, first of all, I realize you're probably just joining us. Check back the video, watch it back. But that would be a really quick question if you still have a little bit more time. People think about franchises, brick and mortar, like establishment. Can food trucks, can people go from a food truck to a brick and mortar? Or can you franchise food trucks?
Yes, there's a couple of franchises in my inventory that are mobile in the sense that they have like a truck, right? And one of them is a donut concept, right? But really what this world needs is more tacos, Daniel, right? Like,
I love you. That's why I love you.
Right? I mean, that we just need more tacos. So, look, there's a lot of things that go into it, and I would love to talk to, how do we say his name? Checo?
Checo, yeah.
Checo?
Yeah.
And that's not really my expertise. My expertise is not really turning a business into a franchise, but I would love to have a conversation with Checo and see where he's at and kind of give him some guidance of what I've seen, and then maybe point him into some right directions too. Because, man, let's get some more tacos out there, like authentic, good street tacos, man.
He is good, and his salsas are good. I judge a taco by its salsa, and he's got Checo. This is his LinkedIn, and this is his website. Go check that out. Yes, this is how you can connect with him. Thank you for asking.
Yes.
So for everybody who's just joining, if you joined us a little late, it's because usually the shows are at noon. So I think a lot of people are used to my shows being at noon.
Oh.
But we had to do. No,
I'm sure that's my fault, right? Okay.
Somebody said I can only do 11, so we did it at 11. I'm not gonna say who, but like I said, somebody's being a little bossy. Can I have his number and give him a call right away? Yes, I will. Checo, I will send you his information.
Yes. if you could send him, text me but honestly, like if we can send him a link, maybe to my calendar link, Daniel, right? Just my easy calendar link.
Send me the calendar link.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, and it'll be a quick conversation. Maybe we'll talk on Monday or whatnot. My kids are about to come home. I'm on the East Coast, so.
And let me say that Checo, one of the hardest working people I know.
Really?
I'm gonna give him some kudos here. I met him. I went to do stand up at this festival, which, by the way, I never got on stage. Boo-hoo to the producers who called me in, but um, I'm. But I met Checo was selling food at the festival, so he was the only food truck out there, and I was hungry, and he had tacos, and we ate. So I went up to him and I said, "Hey, I would love to have you on my show." So I interviewed him. For everybody watching, Checo's actually, uh, we did a live show with him. I interviewed him. We went to his truck again. We found him and went up. But he also started, talk about somebody who like really takes chances and opportunities. He started um, a market, what's it called, oh, I just lost the word. Um, like a little mini market, yeah, like a traveling market. Anyway,
Oh,
farmers market, like a farmers market, but downtown LA where he parks, and there were several food trucks. There were all these vendors. I was doing cars there, and it was really populated. Pop up market, thank you. Pues ya cuando, yes, a pop up market, and he did amazing. I mean, those were really cool. I mean, I got pretty popular because I was the only card reader there. But talk about somebody to connect with who is has a total entrepreneurship brain and thinks about the community
hmm.
and is really, this dude is amazing. Is amazing.
I can't wait to talk to you, Checo. Can you tell me like what if he's still listening and responding? I know he's probably working really hard right now, but I wonder what his favorite taco to make is.
Ooh, Checo, what's your favorite taco to
I
make?
mean, for someone who's probably made 1,000,000,000 tacos, right? Like, what's the one when someone orders it, you're like, oh, good call, dude, good
Well,
call.
I'm sure that his favorite taco to make is my tacos, but um, you're talking about the particular flavor, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always curious. I want to know what the pros are
Um,
doing. I want to know what the
well,
pros are consuming, man.
I'll wait for him to reply before we go. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the show. I so appreciate you.
No, look, you've inspired me, um, and I want to talk to you about your course. And so let's talk offline about that. But I can't thank you enough for, you know, staying in touch, being such a good person. I'm so happy that you have this like aura around you now of everything that you're doing, man, and that makes it just exciting. Handmade tortillas, grilled steak,
Cultural vocabulary,
cat.
handmade tortillas, steak, grilled onions, and cactus. Pico de gallo and salsa. Ooh.
Done. I'm coming to LA, right? I'm just gonna fly in, taco, fly out.
Uh, that you have to do. By the way, I'm going to say this before he goes. There, I thought for a while that you just didn't like want to connect with me anymore because I had messaged you and I never got a reply. And then
Would
I
you
was like,
message me?
I think it was I think it was on LinkedIn or on Facebook, one of the two. And I was
Huh.
like, never replied. And I was like, well, screw you and the horse you rode on.
I must
And
have just missed it, to be quite honest.
and then the memory Facebook, which is so cool about
Yeah.
remembering things, came up, and he was like, "I'm gonna have to try that taco, by the way, Checo, next time I see you." And but then I messaged you again, and you were like, "Hey," I was like, "Oh, okay." So my message got lost. Okay, well,
I must have. I apologize. I must have just missed it or something like that. I
this is
would
me.
definitely was not avoiding you.
This is me calling him out on my show. This is what I'm doing. But
um,
let me put you in the green room again. Thank you, man.
okay.
I
No,
love you and appreciate you coming on the show.
no.
Uh,
Look, I thank you. I mean, thank you for this opportunity, giving me an opportunity to speak to your the members that tune into your show every week and people that you care about. And so that's not lost on me. So thank you so much.
Oh, this is a sign. I just started the idea of mini franchise for hardworking families and always looking to help the community and grow together.
I'm gonna email I'll
I'll
email
connect.
you my calendar link, Daniel.
I'll connect. I'll make sure you get connected. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Dan is I mean, two favorite people. Like by all means, Checo. I so admire his hard work and dedication to the community. and his family is awesome. He's got a beautiful family. Very parallel. I'm going to say that you are very parallel in,
I can't wait.
in your energies. So I'm excited for you guys to meet and connect.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody who stuck around for the extra 20 minutes, I so appreciate you. Dan, I'm going to put you in the green room. I'll be back for you in just a second.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone. Listen, there's nothing to lose. A 15-minute conversation. I might make you laugh, but I'll make sure that you leave that conversation with value. Daniel, great show. Thanks for having me on. When we get in the green room, I'll tell you some things that maybe I would change, maybe I wouldn't, but totally kidding. I love you, man. Thank you so much.
I'll be back for you in just a second. For everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us today. I know it was a special episode, and some of you are like, wait a minute, what happened? Yes, there's just some people that you adjust your calendar for, and Dan Lorenz is definitely one of those. Make sure you go check him out. If you missed the episode, go back and watch it. There's a lot of information that I'm sure you'll be able to use. If you are watching us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, make sure you share this with your friends, especially if you have any friends who are looking to go into franchise and looking to start their own business. This is definitely a great opportunity. If you're watching us on YouTube, do me a favor, scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new show on the air. Remember, we got horoscopes on Monday, Kristen and Daniel show on Wednesdays, Zodiacs, which is tonight, Friday. Join us at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then tomorrow, Saturdays, is put it together live stream at this regular time, noon, which I have the double bagging it folks, Danielle and Joe, who are both awesome like myself, and they're going to come and share their story, so make sure you do it. Follow me on all my social pages. We'd love to hear about you. If you want to be on the show, or if you know somebody who would be a great guest on the show, let me know, send them our way, and we'll definitely make it happen. For now, I want to thank Dan Lorenz for being on the show, and I want to thank you for watching, and hey, put it together. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.